You might think that the best skill to invest as a comic creator is anatomy for those superhero poses or perspective for those dynamic shots. Maybe it's to take a storytelling class or to join my Patreon and Discord. Well, it's none of those actually, except the last one, of course. The best skill you can learn as a comic creator is writing, and I'm not talking about story or plot. But before I explain why that skill is important for you to learn, I need to establish something first that you're probably going to resist. You are not just a comic creator. You're an entrepreneur. If you want to just make comics and you don't really plan on posting them and you don't really see it as a career option or anything like that, then this video is not going to be that valuable to you. But if you want to try and at least attempt the ambition of becoming a comic creator, then this might be the most important video that you watch. It's a big claim, I know, but I genuinely believe it's true. So you probably already know that you need to do a little bit of promoting and marketing and business type stuff if you want to get your comic read by a lot of people. But most of us don't really know how to go about doing that. And I think that the main reason is, well, we haven't been told for a start, because where are the resources for comic creators? We see these highly successful comic creators online post pages of their comic and they get lots of likes and feedback and sales, and they seem to be living the dream. And we don't really see anything else except that. But the fact is that these guys have already made it. They're already known. They already have fans. We don't. So we're not playing the same game as them. And that's why when you post pages of your comic online, it feels like you're losing. And the reason is because posting your work is not marketing. 99.9% of all marketing is writing. It's not actually about posting pretty drawings. Have I just blown your mind? I didn't fully buy it myself at first either, so I understand your skepticism. That was until I realized a universal truth that affects all of us. And that truth is, nobody cares. Well, I knew that already, I hear you say, and I understand, but you're not thinking about it in the right way. Your conclusion that nobody cares is based on the fact that you've posted stuff to the world and the world has responded with indifference. And so your conclusion is that, well, maybe I'm just a bad artist, or it's a bad comic, or that I'm not worthy of praise because I haven't been able to find much, if any. But you need to take a step back and look at the bigger picture. And let me ask you this question. Have you given people a reason to care about your work? Let's paint two scenarios. The first is that you're walking down the street and some random person you've never seen before gives you a leaflet. You take it because you're polite, fold it up and put it in your pocket. You barely glance at what it says and it lives in your pocket for the next couple of months until you find it while looking for your keys and immediately put it in the bin. Scenario 2. You're walking down the street and you bump into your best friend who hands you a leaflet. You take the time to look at it and you start asking questions. You want to know more about what this leaflet is about. The leaflet in both scenarios is the same. The only difference is the person giving it. Why do you not care about the stranger's leaflet? Because they haven't given you a reason to care about some random leaflet from some random person. But you know, like, and trust your friend, so when they give you something, you assume that they've given it to you because they think that you will really enjoy it. So you give it your time and attention. Does that mean you have to make everyone online your friend? No. But it does mean that you have to give people a reason to actually check out your comic. And just handing it to them is not enough. If it was, there wouldn't be a problem. Now, we've spoken about avatars on this channel before, so I'm not going to repeat that here. I'll link to a video that talks about it more in the description. So make sure you check it out if you haven't done so already after this one. Now, there are multiple ways that we can change someone's default position of, I don't care about you, to, yeah, I think I'll check this comic out. We can get them to like us, we can get them to trust us, and we can get them to be familiar with us. We can provide them with interesting information, or we can give them entertainment, or we can do a combination of the two. And we can do all of that by getting better at writing. Writing is a lot more powerful at connecting people than drawing is, and it's also more versatile and more accessible. And that's coming from someone who much prefers to draw than write. So how do you actually use writing to boost your comic? There are a lot of options that are available to us. We can start a blog, we can start an email newsletter, we can script videos for YouTube, Reels and TikTok, or we can write some copy that goes alongside our artwork. I've got two recommendations for these. Firstly, just pick one of those options, and secondly, start practicing immediately. Don't wait for an audience because that's counterproductive. You don't need to wait for permission, just start. Even if you're just emailing yourself for the next 6 months, do it. As long as you're targeting your avatar, you're doing the right thing. But I don't know what to write. I assume that's what you're saying. That's what I would have said. Well, if that's your immediate thought, you're overthinking this. What you write in the beginning, at the very least, doesn't really matter that much. The only thing that you need to focus on is thinking about what your avatar would like and write towards that. Because that's another thing that you have to realize. This isn't about you. When you post a page of your comic on Instagram or Twitter or wherever it is that you post, and you say something along the lines of episode 3 is now out, come and check it out on Webtoon or Tapas or wherever it is that you post, you're making that post about you. From the audience's perspective, you're the stranger with the leaflet. If instead you post a page or a preview or some form of content with your avatar in mind, then you're not making it about you, you're making it about them. You're starting to give them a reason to care. I know in a perfect world, we should just be able to make our comics and then the right audience comes to it, but that's just not the world we live in. So you need to get your reps in when it comes to writing and aim to post at least one piece of written content every month for the next 6 months. Do more if you can, but don't overstretch yourself and don't allow this to get in the way of making your comic if you're still in the process of making your comic. The comic still, at the end of the day, is the most important thing. You can't market it if it doesn't exist. Don't worry if you can only create one piece of content per month. There's no point rushing this. And there's certainly no point beating yourself up that you can't do more. Just do as much as you're able to do right now. Because at the end of the day, convincing people that your comic is worth their time, let alone their money, is going to take a long, long time. The people who just burst onto the scene, they either spent years prior being very unsuccessful before they got to that point, or they got lucky. For the vast, vast majority of us, this takes years. So you might as well start now. During this process, particularly in the early months, you're going to feel that it's not working and you're going to feel that it's not worth it. These are very, very normal emotions to go through. Just know that in the long run, it is worth it. That's why in this title, I said that this is a skill to invest in. So when you're feeling doubt and you're feeling that it's not working, try and trust the process. Because our aim is to get better at writing copy, which is words, so that we can get better at marketing, which means that we can find the right audience for our comic. That is the end game. And the great thing about copywriting is that it's a really transferable skill. If you've been writing a blog for the last 6 months and you feel that you're ready to add something else, so you decide to do an email newsletter, then you can use those skills that you use to construct your blog to construct an email newsletter. And you can use the skills to construct an email newsletter to construct an idea for a video on YouTube or TikTok or Instagram Reels. So these things can bounce off each other. And not just that, but this will also apply if you want to do things like a Kickstarter campaign. If you get good at writing persuasive and interesting language to the relevant sort of people, then you're going to have a much easier job of attracting the right people to your Kickstarter campaign. The main takeaway is that being good at writing towards your target audience, regardless of what format that is what's going to make all of those things significantly more successful than they otherwise would be. Now, that was a lot of information. And I think I know what you're going to do. There's a segment of this audience who will think that I'm full of shit, and that's fine. Thank you very much for watching anyway. There's a segment who will be inspired by what I've said, but they won't actually do anything with it. And there's a segment who will create a YouTube channel and a TikTok account, and they'll start a blog and an email newsletter, and they will burn out within the next 6 weeks. For the latter 2 segments of this audience, I want you to pick one of the following things on screen and just produce one piece of content per month. If you're more concise, pick an email newsletter at around 200 words each. If you like to write already, then choose a blog and aim for at least 800 words. Whichever one you pick, I want you to write something today and post it today. Oftentimes we put everything that we create under a microscope and we pick it apart inch by inch. And we kind of assume that the rest of the world does that to our work as well. But remember, nobody cares. The pressure is never to produce something that's perfect or, in the beginning, something that's even good. The pressure is just to produce something and put it out there. So decide 1 or 2 things that you think your avatar would find interesting, write a little thing about it, and then post it. The reason I want you to do this today is because that post is not going to move the needle. And it doesn't matter whether you write that post today or you write that post in 5 years. It's not going to move the needle either way. So you might as well post it today. The fact of the matter is that the first 50 posts that you make are probably also not going to move the needle that much. I've sent over 3,000 emails to just under 300 people in the last 90 days, and I'm still learning and improving. My first 50 email newsletters that I sent were sent to me and some family members, and that was it. I'm not saying that this is easy, but what I am saying is that this is going to take a very, very long time. So if you just get started today, you're that much closer to getting to a point where you can start finding your audience and start influencing them for the better. So stop thinking that you're not a writer, because you are, and stop thinking that you have nothing interesting to say, because you do. Don't overthink the content and just imagine that you're writing to one single person, your avatar. Over time, people who share interests with your avatar will start to come along and they'll start to consume your content. They may read 10 blog posts before they decide to email you or click on a link to go and find your comic. They may receive 20 email newsletters before they decide to reply to one of them to tell you how impactful your content has been on them. I've received that sort of email more than once, in fact, and it's an amazing feeling, but it took me fucking ages to get to that point. And I spent many weeks thinking that maybe I wasn't good enough or I would never find the right people to read the stuff that I was writing about. But I did, and I continue to do so because I keep writing. And it's not about me, it's about the audience that I serve. Then, when the time is right, you just fucking trap them and you take all their money. No, of course, that's not what we're doing. Fuck me. But the general idea is that we build up enough goodwill and trust with our audience so that when the time comes that we are ready to release our comic, we can talk to them directly and we have a bit of confidence knowing that they're the kind of people who will be interested in our comic because we've been talking about similar things for the last 6-12 months. That way, you're not just more likely to get more people to read your comic, but you're more likely to get the right people to read your comic. If you're a comic creator and you're trying to make it as a full-time or even a part-time living, you have two choices. You either cross your fingers and hope that you get lucky one day, or you put in the work today and you find your audience through your writing. One of those puts you in control, the other one doesn't. I know which one I would choose. I know this is a lot. Most comics are hard enough to write on their own, and now you've got to worry about marketing and writing content on top of that. It's hard enough to find the time, which is another reason why I suggested you do one post per month until you get used to it. But if it's a real concern that you don't have the time and you're feeling too much pressure on everything, then watch this video next because I'll show you a hack that can help take the pressure off your comic while you're making it. Oh, and start writing.